It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here. Today on the big program, lots to get to, lots to talk about. Wow, what a weekend for all the fear-mongering from the keyboard tough guys running around posting pictures of themselves with their big guns because there was a balloon. There was a balloon floating overhead. You'd think Pennywise was about to pull them into a sewer. You would think, wow. I mean, incredible. I mean, it's mind blowing to me. And look, I talked about this over the weekend. As someone who grew up during the Cold War, when there was always a Russian something, trolling around. There was always one of these moments. It wasn't such a big deal. You got used to it. Things happen. It shows how skittish our tough guys are. Back then you had tough guys. Something happens. Now it's a balloon. It's a balloon. It's a balloon. And again, for me, this is one of those moments where you go, oh, it says a lot about us as a society. It really does. In these kind of moments, I guess I'm old enough to remember when there was a national emergency, if you could call a balloon floating overhead a national emergency. Because understand, whatever they were getting, whatever that balloon was getting from 20 miles into the sky, I guess it was 60 to 100,000 feet is what they were saying, somewhere in that range. Whatever they were getting, you can get from Google Earth. You can get online. They could get from their satellites. Because understand, they've got satellites. But for me, it was one of these moments where, I now look at what kind of a society we've become. And this is the frightening part. This is truly a problem. This should have been a moment of unity. This should have been a moment of coming together and accomplishing something on the front of going, what do we do as a nation? Having a real conversation around what to do. Instead of, a bunch of nitwits taking pictures of themselves. The guy from Missouri was hysterical. He's got the little child's size military backpack on the front of him. It was so it was adorable. He was so cute. With his big gun, he had the AR-15 with the big capacity magazine and the silencer on the front, of course, because we don't want the balloon to hear the bullet coming, of course. But he wanted to look like a tough guy. And the little tiny backpack, the little pack that, oh, it was so sad. So sad. But again, he was going to take care of it. Now, for those who know anything, okay, you're going to shoot in the sky. Maybe it goes a couple thousand feet. You're still, 50,000 feet short. It's my favorite picture is, a bunch of angry white people throwing bottles at the sky. You're not going to hit the balloon. But again, this should have been a moment where we came together. And over the weekend, I had friends call and go, oh my gosh, is the sky falling? Is it just the beginning of the war? Are they attacking us? And the answer is no. This is what during the Cold War used to happen a lot. They would send something, we would shoot it down. We would send something, they would shoot it down. And this is where we're going to end up. Trust me, this is going to happen because the Chinese are saying, well, you're using force indiscriminately against our balloons. So when the next time one of our drones goes over, somewhere in their airspace, it's going to get shot down and we're going to have these international tensions. Congratulations. Welcome to the new Cold War. And whether Biden was going to shoot it down at the beginning or at the end, it was going to happen anyhow. This is how this is played out. This is how the game is played. The fact that we appeared on the international stage incredibly divided. Really, I'll tell you, speaks volumes. The fact that you had a former president he looks weak, weakening the sitting commander-in-chief's position. Again, historic. I come back to this moment and I go, what if Bill Clinton, after 9/11, after Republicans allowed 9/11 to happen, what if Bill Clinton would have come out and said, George Bush is the weakest leader possible. How is it possible that he could have let this happen? And we need somebody new. That didn't happen. The country mobilized. His approval rating shot up into the 80 and 90% range. When his father went into Iraq, the approval rating went through the roof. In that moment of crisis, we united. It used to be that our divisions stopped at the water's edge. That, like any family, we have our little tiffs, we argue with each other, we smack each other around a bit, but when it comes to the outside world, we put down those petty differences. We put down the party labels. But oh boy, our Boberts and our Greens and our Ronnie Jacksons. Oh, the only thing that would have made Ronnie Jackson more angry had the balloon been carrying a gas stove. I mean, that's how ridiculous this is. And understand, full spin mode, outrage candy on steroids to get people angry. And congratulations, it worked. And then, you knew it was coming. We find out that 3 balloons happened over the U.S. during the Trump years. Wasn't a big deal. You didn't see Democrats out there going, the balloon. You didn't see that. Didn't see it at all. Because that's how this is played. And we had better get used to it quickly. And we'd better come around to some ideas on how we're going to move forward as a country. Because again, this is one of these moments. This should be a unifying moment. Because understand, most recent Morning Consult poll came out and said that 85% of registered U.S. voters are concerned about China's cybersecurity attacks on us, the economic threats that they pose to this country. But we were more concerned about balloons. And this is one of those moments where you go, we should be having this conversation. And the thing that the Biden administration, I think, is doing well, talking about how we're going to reshore manufacturing, how we're going to strengthen up our supply chains, how we're going to be able to compete in the future with the Chinas of the world, since we gave our manufacturing away. And I've said this, people go, Biden was part of that. Okay, he was part of it back 30 years ago. A lot of people were. I'm talking about the here and now, the fact that right now we need to be moving in a direction and quickly to start making things here again. And this is, again, when you get past the outrage machine, when you get off of the outrage factory and the division that they have to push, and the fringe characters, the Boberts, the Greens, the Gateses, the rest of them. When you get out of MAGA world, the reality is the vast majority of Democrats, Republicans, Independents agree we need to be doing something on our economic policies. We need to be doing something on cybersecurity. We need to be doing more on human rights violations. We need to be doing a lot more on the military front. Because this is the part that is kind of comical. The people who tell us that they love the military the most, and every time there's a photo op, they've always got a picture. There's always somebody in a uniform with a gun and a flag, and they're smiling ear to ear. Because hey, it's good for PR. But it's amazing to me that they honestly didn't believe that the military had been tracking that balloon when it came into our airspace near the Aleutian Islands. They had no belief that they were tracking it. Now, when it first came to me, I said, probably the reason they didn't shoot it down is they want to see where it's going. They want to see what the Chinese are looking at, because guess what? Knowing what your enemy is looking at is kind of important. Thinking about, strategically where they're going to go. Because if you think that balloon wasn't up there and we were blocking any transmission that it may have had somewhere else because we've got technology like that, you're delusional. They're not going to allow that to happen. But they were looking at our military bases. I went on Google Earth. I can look at our military bases. Unless it's got some kind of X-ray vision where you can see down into the bunkers and through cement walls, not helpful. And then the part that was amazing to me, and this is the part again, these Chicken Littles, the sky is falling, there's a balloon. The part that's amazing to me is all of these elected leaders, like the governor of Missouri saying, that's where we keep our stealth bombers. Why are they looking at that? What? Might as well tell them where we keep the nukes. Oh, yeah, they did. They did. Montana. That's where we keep our nukes. It's really quite remarkable. And again, I look at our keyboard tough guys, and we're going to get there, and we're going to shoot down that balloon with our pea shooters. All projecting this kind of strength while cowering like children, hiding behind mommy's skirts. I mean, it's really telling. Now, again, I use this idea of this was a trial balloon. The Chinese did this specifically to see how we would react and to sow seeds of division. Mission accomplished. They did just that. And Republicans, again, failed this country. The question is what brings us back together? And this is what I think, the State of the Union is going to be about on Tuesday. The president's going to have to come out and talk about how we move this country in a positive direction, how the policies that they have pushed through over these last 2 years are going to make lives better, and how we're going to deal with crisis in the future. When you have a group of people who are hell-bent on running around screaming at the balloons. Love to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I'm going to take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around. You listen to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
The best way to strengthen America's economy? How about investing in America's fastest growing industry? Clean energy. It means millions of jobs that pay well and can't be outsourced. And lower utility costs for families. Congress, let's get it done.
It would be unimaginable.
A default could result in the loss of roughly 3 million American jobs.
There'd be a colossal interest rate shock around the entire planet.
Borrowing across the board would become harder.
New 30-year mortgages could cost an additional $130,000.
Defaulting on our debts would cause the stock market to plunge. Estimates, Chief Economist Mark Zandi said, could plunge by 1/3 and erase $15 trillion in household wealth.
401k accounts could lose up to $20,000.
No Social Security and Medicare payments. Federal and military employees wouldn't get paid.
Paying for the agencies that inspect our food and our water and keep our planes moving.
Prices for everyday items would go up.
Moody's Analytics estimates the GDP would drop by nearly 4%. Nearly 6 million jobs would be lost, and household wealth would drop by $15 trillion.
And the U.S. national debt could increase by $850 billion.
A cataclysmic event that would ripple very quickly through the global financial system that would touch people in ways they can't even imagine.
What about the debt ceiling? Any chance you'd vote for
No.
it? Even if you had
No.
Even if you had all your
No.
plans?
Welcome back to The Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So I look at Tuesday's State of the Union address, and the president really, he's got his work cut out for him. He really does, because the right-wing echo chamber, the machine that they have built, the messaging machine they've built is really second to none. They've got Americans convinced that we're on the wrong track. Everything's horrible. The sky is falling. The most recent NBC poll out says 71% of Americans think the country's off on the wrong track. And this is one of those things that he has to listen to. The president's got to listen to the fact that the people are unhappy. In fact, there was another poll. I think it was a Quinnipiac poll, if I'm not mistaken, that was out that said, a civic science poll it was, that came out and said that, the highest level of unhappy people in decades, it's up to 12%. 12% of people are unhappy Happy people are somewhere in the 50s, always somewhere in the 50s, never above 60, somewhere in the mid to high 50s. We're in the low 50s, 53% right now. 35% of people are neutral. I'm doing all right. 12% unhappy. And that's up over the last couple years. It was 10% for a while. So he's got to listen to that. He's got to listen to the fact that people are struggling, that inflation is really hurting a lot of working families. And he's got to talk about this. He's got to talk about the programs that are going to move us in a direction that are going to be helpful, the things that they've done thus far to create jobs, the manufacturing that they're bringing back, the infrastructure bills that are going to get people back to work in good union jobs that are going to be able to raise standards of living. That's all going to be helpful. But he's got to make the case that this inflation, you got to have a boogeyman. And the right has said everything's Joe Biden's fault. I can't tell you how many people go, eggs are $11,000 an egg. Locally, I think they were $3.19 or something like that. He's got to be able to make the case and go, and look, here's where our problem is. Our problems, supply chains are broken. We are working on getting that fixed. We're reshoring manufacturing. We're investing in infrastructure. We're investing in job training. We're investing a lot of things to help secure our supply lines. That was broken long before I got here. We outsourced all these jobs. We did all of the corporate America and the greed and in the boardrooms decide our national manufacturing strategy. We are now moving in a direction to reclaim some of that. And then talk about the jobs that are being created around in manufacturing. How we're bringing those jobs back to help feed that supply chain. But he's also got to talk about the fact that, you look at the oil companies who have just been gouging us like crazy, record profits that they have never seen before in history. The kind of obscene profits that they've never seen, that these oil companies are putting in their pocket, and then telling us, no, it's Biden's fault the oil prices are so high. No, this is good old-fashioned American greed and opportunism. Corporate America is gouging us. And he's got to come out strong in talking about how the Federal Trade Commission is going to start looking into antitrust violations. We're going to start going after these gougers. We're going to start holding these people accountable. And we're going to use our government to hold them accountable and to help the average consumer and to help people get through. And he's got to do it in a way that people are going to understand. It's much easier to just go, no, Biden. Because that's all we hear from the right. They don't have a plan. There's nothing there. They've got no platform. They've got no ideas. They've got nothing other than just anger, other than just throwing a temper tantrum and going, Biden, Biden, Biden. Everything's Biden. And whoever would be next, it's going to be them. Because, again, they've got no solutions. There's nothing there. Now, this president has created, in 2 years, more jobs than any president in our country's history. In 2 years. And the response I get from my friends on the right is, well, workforce participation's down. And you go, a little bit. It's ticked down a bit. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that a lot of people who are older aren't going back into the workforce for a bunch of reasons. One, COVID's not over. I know the right I know the House passed legislation saying COVID's over and it's done. For a lot of people, especially the older workers, it's not. And they're worried about it and they're going, heck with this, we're going to retire. That's a huge portion of the people not in the workforce. But they want you to believe that there's a bunch of lazy people out there that your hard work is covering. No, the big part of that is people retiring. Now, I do find it interesting that the people who complain about workforce participation are the loudest voices, mind you, are the people from the states that have the lowest workforce participation. Now, understand, what they want you to believe, it's those blue states with their high union density rates and their union wages and their union health care and in their social safety net programs like food stamps and unemployment. They want you to believe that those states are the ones that are staying home en masse. And the reality is the states with the lowest workforce participation rate is and always has been our southern states. What has been dragging us down for decades? Well, from the beginning of the country, basically. West Virginia has the lowest workforce participation rate, 55%, followed by Mississippi, New Mexico, Arkansas, South Carolina, Alabama, Kentucky, Maine, Louisiana, and Florida. Now Maine and Florida, you go, I can almost see that. A lot of retirees there. But the rest of those are solidly, red states. Well, not New Mexico. New Mexico is a swing state. The rest of those are West Virginia, Mississippi, Arkansas, South Carolina, Alabama, Kentucky, Louisiana. A lot of red there. And not much safety net. Not much union density. So the arguments that the narrative that they throw at us, it's not there. It's not working. But we don't think that far down the road. The area with the highest workforce participation, oddly enough, the place everybody loves to hate, Washington, D.C. Almost 72% of people there have jobs. And it's all those welfare people. Because to listen to a Republican talk about our welfare programs and to talk about workforce participation, you would think there are no workers in D.C. I mean, that's the part that just is kind of remarkable to me. So I think the president's got to talk about the debt ceiling as well. That's got to come up. And the danger that is going to be caused by us holding the country hostage. I think that has got to come up. And you've got to point names. You got to point fingers. You got to point them out. We cannot, in any way, shape, or form, not pass a debt ceiling increase. Now, remember, Republicans, they want to hold us hostage. They want to hold the country hostage. And Social Security, I know Kevin McCarthy said it's off the table. It's not. There are members in the Republican study group, of which about 75% of House Republicans are members. They have signed on to wanting to raise the retirement age to 70, and then once it hits 70, to index that to raise every year after that. They want to means test Medicare. They want to do a whole bunch of stuff that, again, we're not destroying Social Security and Medicare. We're just fixing it so it works better for corporate America. That's the reality. What the president needs to be talking about is, I will not allow anything negative to happen. I will veto every Republican proposal on Social Security and Medicare. I will only sign a bill that expands it, that helps seniors and helps people move forward. But again, in this day and age, we're not going to see that. There is a lot coming, and the president's going to have to make this plea. And get people to think that he understands. He can't have a detached moment where people think he's out of touch. He has to empathize and has to sell it. Look, I understand things are tough. Things are tough all over, and we are working to make things better. We are working every day to try and bring inflation down, and we have brought inflation down. Gas prices are down. Things are going in the right direction. We are on the path that is going to get us where we need to go. We're investing in infrastructure, reshoring manufacturing. We are doing the things that need to be done. And what's interesting is the right losing their mind. Now, again, infrastructure, manufacturing, those are Trump's major platforms. The fact that Biden's actually doing them and not just talking about them, and then have Trump and the MAGA crowd attacking him is rather remarkable. Honestly, truthfully, it's quite remarkable. But I'm hoping the president comes out swinging, and I'm hoping he full defense of what they've accomplished, because it's enormous. It's enormous what they've done in such a short period of time.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania to the auto factories of Michigan to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
I've been driving buses for 5 years, and my day-to-day routine is I wake up a little earlier than most people. I get on a bus, I go out, I pick up some students and make sure they get to school nice and safe. Here in Fairbanks, Alaska, that can be a challenge because of the winter weather and the icy roads. But I love the job. So the Teamsters are great. They provide us a lot of protections. They've always taken care of their people, made sure that our jobs were secure. We didn't have to worry about whether or not we'd have a job from day to day.
And that's amazing because before we'd be working 4, 6, 8 hours a day and only earning minimum wage was real difficult to make a living. And then the Teamsters pushed a lot so we make something we can live off of and not have to have a second job. What absolutely gives me peace of mind, the union membership allows me to focus on this job without having to worry about whether or not my family is going to be taken care of. I'm Andrew Case and I'm proud to be Teamsters Local 959.
Before we close the program, we want to take a moment to thank our viewers and to share a little bit about why we do what we do. At the Rick Smith Show, we believe that media today is almost entirely controlled by corporate greed. So we have now 24-hour news channels. But instead of 24 hours of news, what we get is 1 hour repeated 24 times, and with tons of commercials creating obscene amounts of profits. Information once presented as a public service has now become a private commodity. So when lies make money, lies are what we get. We get a corporate-controlled rage machine feeding us anger and hate, trying to convince us that our problems are right, left, or red, blue, when they are and always have been up, down, the wealthiest 1% versus the rest of us. Our goal is to be an alternative to that machine, not as a news show with a fancy journalist out front, but as a talk show run by a union truck driver and a team of working-class heroes just like you. Everything we do, both what we get right and what we get wrong, is dedicated to advancing the interests of America's working families. No corporate ad buys, no think tanks, no focus groups, no talking points. We are media by working people, for working people. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.